mental health related issues, there are treatments available, there is help available. You must reach out and you must seek help and support at the right time, because if you do so, you will always be able to take care of your own self and your well being. Hi everyone, my name is Kamna Chibur. I'm a clinical psychologist. I head the Department of Mental Health and Behavioral Sciences at Fortis Healthcare. I'm here today with Voice of Women to talk to you about certain aspects. The profession of being a clinical psychologist is an extremely rewarding space to work in. For any individual that you would connect with and talk to them about how they would feel about doing therapy, you would always hear them talk about the fact that they could really feel that they make a difference. But like any other occupation, it comes with its own stresses, it comes with its own pressures. And the stress and pressure, to a large part, emanates from the fact that we don't necessarily always have control over outcomes. You may be able to see that there is a certain path that needs to be followed, but the choice of following that path is not yours. It's completely dependent upon the person that you're working with. There are a lot of strong boundaries that we need to adhere to. Those boundaries give us the right structure and the right framework and allow us to function with the people that we're working with in a way that facilitates their own attainment of skills, coping abilities, strategies which could facilitate living a better life for them. And maintaining those boundaries and ensuring that there is a clarity of the roles can sometimes posit its own challenge. I think the other aspect is that there is a lot of responsibility when you're working with someone. It's not easy to completely distance and disconnect yourself from taking on ownership of the kind of work that you are doing. There are a lot of ethical considerations that must be kept in mind at all times, and we cannot allow those to become very blurred in our minds at all. I think the other aspect is, like I said, that there is immense responsibility that we do take on. And along with that, when clients are going through their difficult periods, it can create immense stress and pressure. And wherein ensuring that you have the right kind of peer support systems available, professional support systems available, supervision available, plays a very, very large role in ensuring that you're able to take care of your own self. Depression is a term which has entered our everyday language, and people tend to use it very loosely, oftentimes not understanding that depression is also a clinical illness, and like any other physical health related ailment, it requires its own signs and symptoms and criteria that you must fulfill before we diagnose someone with the illness of depression. And primary among those symptoms or the criteria that we look at is that for an individual, just experiencing a regular low mood cannot qualify it as being called depression. That low mood needs to persist consistently for a minimum period of 2 weeks. If it's not present for those 2 weeks and the fluctuations in moods come and go, then it might not be depression. It may still warrant that you speak to an expert, especially if you're experiencing a lot of distress. But labeling it as depression can be misleading for your own self, and you may not end up adequately addressing what is happening to you. The signs and symptoms which can indicate towards the presence of depression include having a combination of the following aspects. One, of course, is low mood, which is the most easily understood aspect. Secondly, people a lot of times can experience crying spells. There is also a tendency to not be able to enjoy the things the person typically had an interest in or would derive a lot of pleasure from. Having a difficulty in concentrating is commonly seen, as is tiredness or fatigue. We can also see changes in appetite and sleep patterns, wherein an individual may end up eating less or eating more, sleeping less or sleeping more. Concurrently, oftentimes we end up seeing thoughts where an individual feels increasingly helpless, or they may feel hopeless, that there is no way that things are going to turn around for them. They can also develop feelings of worthlessness where they start viewing themselves in a rather negative light, and this can often lead to thoughts which may pertain to even self-harm. It's the, like I mentioned before, it's the consistent presence of these symptoms for at least a 2 week period, which also creates immense distress and leads to an impairment in functioning of the individual in multiple spaces of their life, their work, their social relationships, their day-to-day activities, that indicates towards the presence of the disease and the illness. Like any other profession, we go through our own stresses and strains. As a mental health professional, it's very important to be very mindful of boundaries. It's essential that one understands where the stress is building up, when it is building up, so that one can engage in good, solid routines which lead to unwinding and relaxation. One of the things which I have seen works extremely well is learning to switch off. Sometimes it's very important to get off the gadgets, disconnect from social media, and just get that complete mental break that allows one to be able to recuperate and to kind of restores one reserves of energy. I think the other thing which really works very well, at least for me personally, is doing a lot of reading, and reading which does not relate to my profession alone. I like to read a lot of non-fiction books, and that's something that really helps me feel a lot better. I've started liking listening to music, something which I previously never used to do, but it's a habit that I've inculcated and developed over time, and which actually indicates that you may not always have had certain routines in place, but if you would work on them, they could really help to ensure that you're being able to take care of your mental health and your well-being. I think it's also very important as a therapist to give yourself the space to be able to experience emotions on your own. A lot of times, therapists can end up holding themselves to very, very high standards, very, very stringent expectations of their own self, and it's very important to understand that there are times when you would also struggle, and that it is okay for you to go through your own emotional ups and downs. And it's not that just because we work in the space of mental health that we would not be having our own challenges to work through. And when you do experience these, then like we advise everyone else that we work with, that you need to have your support systems in place. It is our support systems which need to kick in at that time, whether it is in the form of our peers, whether it is in the form of our mentors, our supervisors, whether it's in the form of our friends, our family members. Maintaining and ensuring that those relationships are in place is something which is very, very essential, and we need to learn to speak and share about our distresses as well as we go through them, just the way that we keep advising everyone else to. I think those are the things that could really work and ensure that, as a therapist, one is being able to take care of one's own mental health. Parenting never was, still is not an easy area for any individual to operate in. I think parenting comes with numerous challenges, and there are certain things which parents inadvertently end up indulging it, which can negatively impact the child, or not allow them to grow up in the kind of mature individuals that they may want them to be. Some of the things that I think parents should keep in mind is that it's very important that you keep on modeling the right kind of behavior. Children learn maximally through observation, and whatever it is that you do is what your child is going to absorb. So if you want your child to inculcate certain habits, it's very essential that you do follow those same rules. I think another aspect is that a lot of times parents are unsure of how to set the boundaries or what kind of boundaries to set. Sometimes they end up being too firm, and at other times they become too lenient. In the situation where they're being too firm, they end up using too much punishment instead of utilizing other mechanisms, like trying to explain things to the child, or trying to utilize other means to be able to help the child understand that the behavior is not okay. When they end up becoming too lenient, they may be overindulgent and allow the child to make any kind of choices that the child wants to make. That becomes a problem as well, because the child is not learning how to play within the rules, they're not learning how to behave within the rules, which can become problematic, especially when they're going to be going into spaces like school, or when they need to learn to work in teams and groups. That's where this becomes really challenging. I think parenting also involves a lot of transitioning. Initially, when children are young, do's and don'ts work very well, because you do need to keep on, directing the child and their attention and their behavior. But over a period of time, your approach needs to keep evolving, and that can be a very, very difficult aspect, because it's not easy to transition from being that directive parent to start transitioning towards becoming someone with whom the child can have more interactions, negotiate, bargain with, develop their own understanding in that process, become mature in their own thinking as a result. Because we want children to be able to start thinking laterally, especially as they're growing up to becoming adolescents, where they will end up making a lot of choices. Developing that communication is very critical as a parent, because it's only when you have good communication patterns in place would you be able to ensure that your child makes the right choices in the future for their own selves. I think another area where parents can often go wrong is when they become too over involved and don't allow their child to make choices for their own selves, or sometimes they become very overprotective, wherein they may not allow their child to fully explore the environment and try to understand how things are or what they are like. And their own anxiety can sometimes get projected onto their child, which may prohibit or prevent the child from developing or having the kind of experiences which could allow them to develop cognitively, socially, emotionally, all of which are very, very critical aspects. So these are some of the things which I think could be very, very crucial and critical to your child's growth and development, things where parents can end up inadvertently, of course not intentionally, making certain mistakes. And if you're more wary of some of these elements, I think you can end up giving your child a lot of opportunities, and which is what the main role of a parent is, to provide a lot of opportunities for your child to explore, grow, question, think, and learn to make choices in a healthy, respectful way. I think that's something which is very, very essential. A lot of people end up experiencing anxiety within social situations, and oftentimes one of the primary mechanism that they do utilize to be able to cope with it is to try and avoid being in the situations where they have previously, or they anticipate they might end up experiencing any kind of an anxiety. One would expect, from a logical standpoint, that avoiding the situation would help reduce the anxiety. But what often people don't realize is that inadvertently it is only contributing further to the anxiousness, because it only ensures that later on, when you do come across similar or sometimes the same situations, you would be even more apprehensive and fearful of being in within them. And so that avoidance mechanism really does not help at all. In fact, it only tends to worsen the problem. So one of the first few things that we do encourage people is that, of course, in a healthy manner, in a safe manner, not overextending yourself, but in whatever way that you can consider somewhat comfortable, it's important to try and not avoid the situations where you're feeling that you could get anxious in. I think the second aspect is that oftentimes people end up engaging in some sort of negative coping strategies besides avoiding or trying to avoid the situation. So it could involve consumption of things like alcohol or substances, and that is something which we absolutely say you should not indulge in at all, because these negative coping mechanisms only reinforce the idea that you do not have the ability, the will, or the motivation, or sometimes even the kind of strategies that you need in place to be able to cope with the situation. And it's far more important that we try to find mechanisms that can create those healthy coping systems and put those in place which can allow you to function in a better manner in these same very situations. So what would instead work would be something like trying to figure out, how do you reframe your thoughts? How do you try to reappraise the emotions that you're feeling in a situation? Because you are trying to work on the behaviors that you're displaying by not avoiding the situation. Then how do you reframe your thoughts? How do you reappraise appraise the emotions that you feel, so that you can try and cope with the anxiousness that can set in. Understanding that what you're experiencing in terms of the anxiety in those moments is something that would bear away if you're able to just sustain yourself in that situation for a little while, would certainly be helpful. And it's also about getting the mind habituated to the idea and the notion that it's anxiety, it's something that would go away, it's going to be self-limiting in many ways, and if you're able to work your way through it, it would settle down, and in all likelihood over a period of time, a repeated exposure to that situation would not trigger that same level of anxiousness. But of course, I think this comes with the caveat that if you are experiencing immense anxiety, it gets out of control, it's something that is coming very spontaneously for you, then my suggestion would be you must go and meet an expert, because your own situation, your own experiences are very unique to you, and generalized strategies may not always work, and it could be more helpful to work with someone individually to figure out what could be the best approach for you. Whether this involves taking therapy, trying to work through, like I suggested, certain mechanisms, through those mechanisms, or do you need to create some other mechanisms which are more individually tailored to you, or whether we need to look at something which is like a medical intervention, which could be far more beneficial in that particular situation. There is a lot of stigma which surrounds mental health related problems, and it's very important that we take active measures to start taking care of this aspect, because it's the stigma that prevents a large majority of people from seeking help for the mental health related issues that impact their lives. To ensure that people's well-being is restored, I think the first most important thing that we need to do is to start talking about and having conversations around mental health, where we try to normalize the understanding that mental health related illnesses can happen to any individual. Just like physical health related problems, they too can affect our sense of well-being. They too can impact the lives that we are leading, and that there are treatment options which are available. I think that's something which is very, very important and must be reinforced, because a lot of people do not understand and do not have it at the back of their mind that a mental health related illness too can be treated. Which makes me come to the next point, that another very important aspect to start taking care of the stigma that surrounds mental health issues is busting the myths and misconceptions that people harbor in their minds. It's very essential that we try and take care of the misunderstandings that people are holding on to. And we must do this not just by putting out more media messages, communicating through, say, radio, news, magazines, but I think it's very important for us to also start pushing this understanding of mental health towards the young minds. We need to try and talk within even schools, colleges, increase the discourse and the narrative around mental health, encourage more conversations about it, tell children as well about what mental health related issues are, and that is something which is very, very important. I believe it would be very helpful to even include mental health as a part of the curriculum, encourage young people to engage with it so that they can go back to their homes, talk to their family members, and help us in taking care of the stigma. Mental health is often thought of as indicating towards the absence of a mental health related illness, and that's not all that it is. Mental health relates to your psychological well-being, your emotional well-being, your social well-being. It is your mental health which determines how you think, how you feel, how you're responding to situations. Your mental health and well-being is very intricately related to the ways in which you would look at situations, the way you understand them, how you end up problem solving your way through difficulties, the manners in which you would end up reaching certain decisions, how you maintain your relationships, the ways in which you cope with problems, and also how you're adapting to challenging situations. So your mental health encompasses a lot of aspects which are going to be impacting your overall sense of well-being. It is certainly possible that we try to maintain our mental health, our state of well-being. And for this, I think we need to start making certain better, healthier choices. It's very important that we start focusing on learning to first understand what is it that we experience, our thoughts, our feelings, learning to understand that there are situations which can impact us and affect our well-being. And so it's important that once you are in the midst of certain situations, you learn to talk about them, you learn to try to reach out for help if that is warranted in that situation. Secondly, what's important is to start focusing on your lifestyle. We have immense stress, lots of pressure, there is a lot of competition around us. Oftentimes, our relationships are not the strongest. It's very important that you start focusing on even the basics, your lifestyle. Exercise regularly, focus on your diet, stay away from substances, make better choices for your sleep patterns. Don't just look at having a good life which you think is related to what others view, but start figuring out what is it that works for your own self and implement that in your day-to-day routines. Thirdly, it's also very essential that you focus on building good, strong relationships. I think that's something that goes missing for many individuals. It's very essential that you try to inculcate a good, strong bond with the people that you do connect to. Make an active effort to do so. Build relationships, not just with your family members, not just with someone that you are in love with, but also with your friends, your neighbors, your peers and colleagues with whom you're working in your organizations. That's something which is very essential and would stand you well in the long run. I think if you start doing and making an active effort in some of these aspects, and you also look at inculcating habits that allow you to relax and unwind, these could be ways of maintaining your mental health and your sense of well-being. Um, there is a lot of stress and pressure that young people tend to experience. I think there is a lot of competitiveness, also immense comparisons that they tend to engage in. And there are a lot of lofty expectations, a lot of which emanate from within their own self, where they have set these high standards, which kind of tend to compromise sometimes their own assessment of how well they are doing. I think as a society, it's very important for all of us to come together to keep reinforcing that it's very important for individuals, especially for young people, to keep focusing on their own strengths. It's very important for them to look at what is it that is good within them, to look at their the assets that they possess, so that they can utilize them in the best manner in the areas that they are working in. And it's important for individuals to keep reinforcing the good instead of getting stuck with what they feel may not be the best within them. That approach is something that we need to start inculcating in a very conscious manner. It's about maintaining the positivity, building the optimism which allows people to be able to cope with difficulties and navigate through very difficult situations, and to maintain their resilience in the face of hardships. It's very essential that we regularly talk to people, especially young people around us, and try to help them understand what could be the various ways in which they can cope with difficult situations. Building these skills, I think, is a must. It's something that we must start at a very young age within schools itself. I think it's very essential that we focus on encouraging children to develop life skills like assertiveness, life skills like negotiation, decision making, problem solving, communication, empathy, emotional understanding. All of these very, very critical life skills which could allow them to lead better lives, where they are able to sustain and maintain their mental health, their sense of well-being. I think it's also very important that we focus on helping children, helping adolescents, young adults develop media literacy, so that they're able to also develop a good understanding of the kind of media messages that they're bombarded with. The reality is that we live in a society where there is a lot of information which is coming our way, and we are not often fully aware of what reaches us, where is it coming from, why is it being directed at us, could there be another way of looking at it, is it representing a certain value, could it be looked at differently, is there some different way of interpreting it? And if we don't teach people how to raise these questions, they will certainly never be able to understand the different ways in which they can protect their own self and prevent information being consumed which could lead to a deterioration of their mental health or their well-being. I think it's very important that we keep on looking at these aspects and reinforce that focusing on the self is what is very important. Building their own self structures, maintaining their self-esteem, their confidence, a positive self-view is what we need to focus on as a society, as a collective. My message for people who are viewing Voice of Women is very simple. I think it's very important that we learn to prioritize our mental health and our well-being. If nothing else, in this pandemic, we have all learned that how easy and how fragile our mental health and well-being can be, and how difficult situations can come in and completely make us feel at a loss. I think it's very important that we start taking proactive measures to ensure that we are building our sense of mental health. For this, I think it's important that we start taking cognizance of the fact that it's not looking at mental health only today, it's about mental health in the long run. This debate, this narrative, this discourse should not stop. It's very important that we keep pushing this topic to the forefront repeatedly, regularly, and each of us chooses to unmute yourself, come outside, talk about what it is that could be impacting you, seek help. Make sure if there is a problem in your life, you don't bottle it up and just keep on withering from inside. It's far more important that you understand for mental health related issues, there are treatments available, there is help available. You must reach out and you must seek help and support at the right time, because if you do so, you will always be able to take care of your own self and your well-being.